Hello and welcome to our year-end special of Dubai Real Estate Unplugged, the official Haus and Haus podcast. I'm Luke Remington, Managing Director of the Haus and Haus Group, and today I'm joined by James and Simon. Welcome back both.
Hi.
Good morning.
The final finale, Simon, 2023.
Yeah, we've made it. We've made it here to the end of the year. How exciting.
Today we're going to revisit some moments that have shaped our journey this past year, as well as our share of thoughts for 2024. So it's going to be quite an interesting one. Simon, it's been a special year. Obviously, with what's going on with the market, we've come into our new office that we're recording this from. And we filled it, which was one of the goals and one of the aims, I think, when we were talking about at the end of 2022, what are the plans with 2023? How have you found it? And, you know, you're in the off-plan sector. You've kind of steered the ship in this office. How's the team grown?
The new office has been great, hasn't it? And I think, you know, sometimes you possibly can't see the wood for the trees because you're involved in it every day. And I think this year we've come a long way as a business. We've started doing a lot more marketing-wise recently. We've signed up for 12 months on the radio, various things with that. So I think there's a lot going on, and I think sometimes we probably need to take a step back to appreciate, how far we have come. The last 12 months has certainly been exciting. And growth-wise, of course, we have grown. I think ever since we started the company, we've always had a minimum target to grow 40% year on year. And in terms of employee numbers, maybe not quite at that level, but certainly revenue-wise. And I don't necessarily think that 2023 was an easier or a better year from an estate agency perspective. I don't know what you guys think, but
would you not think we've been heavily influenced with our success due to the market?
I think the market's certainly helped. I mean, certainly the market's helped propel many companies, hasn't it? We've seen some new companies come from literally from nowhere 3 or 4 years ago and propel themselves into a position as sort of market leaders. Whereas I think we've probably done it slightly differently, a lot more steadily, I would say. I mean, if you remember the tough times from sort of 15 all the way through to 20, we still maintained a minimum 40% year-on-year growth, which I think is testament to our dedication, hopefully. And what do you think, James?
Yeah, definitely. For me, this year has been a success. As Simon said, we've had growth in pretty much every department. The office has been definitely well received amongst the team. We often have people coming from the other offices coming over to this one to come and sit in the cafe and on the kind of remote working spaces and what have you. So yeah, it's been positive overall.
James, you touched on growth. What were the growth ambitions for 2023, and how important was it in your plan to maintain that culture? I know it's talked about a hell of a lot recently. Seems to be over since COVID, really, and people probably leave in the office about this whole culture scheme and how can you have a culture when you're working from home. Then it was kind of the buzzword when people have gone back to working from the offices. So how important is it and how have you maintained it?
Yeah, I mean, to give you some stats on that, so at the end of last year, we had 279 people in the business. We're now up to 355, so 27% increase. In simplistic terms, the offices feel full. And obviously, we've been having quite a few conversations recently about what are the next steps and other office space and things like that. So it's a positive, it's good to see the offices full when you walk in. I think there's definitely a good buzz, which is part and parcel of that culture, right? I think whether you're a client or someone coming in for an interview, everyone would say there's a very good energy when you walk in here. Mm-hmm. Culture-wise, I think we talked about it at the start of last year, but for us, it's about kind of having that growth, but having the right systems in place so that we maintain the culture. And I guess one of the biggest things for myself is from just looking back at the year, really, is we've promoted certain people within the business. So what that means for the rest of the team is that they have more kind of direct managers, if you like, to go to, who kind of are doing what we did, maybe 5 or 6 years ago, where we were having to cover a lot of different bases. We now just have a really, really good structure to the team where hopefully every person within the business has someone that's, very, very connected to them in terms of that particular department that they can bounce off day in, day out,
Simon, do you feel the dynamic of the company's changed massively in the last year?
I think with any growth, obviously there's always going to be some change. I think, as James touched on, the fact that we've had, I think in residential team, we've had 4 new sales managers and we've had 1 in off plan. So there's 5 new team managers promoting, really experienced brokers and giving them the opportunity for personal growth to be able to, not only use all their skills that they've learned and acquired in the market here to help teach, maybe newer, less experienced brokers, but also benefit from that financially, of course, and get, an override of the deals that those team members are doing. So I think that's a really important part. And I think, from a culture perspective, that really helps the fact that everyone's pulling in the same direction. We don't get lots of people, infighting within the teams, and I think that's really important culturally, that people do see growth here, and they see that if they buy into how we've designed the company, to be the best sort of platform for brokers, built by brokers, as we've always said. I think that's a huge opportunity, and that hopefully keeps that culture all going in the right direction, really.
Is it difficult to keep this culture when a lot of people do like the idea not to work from the office? I'm sure it's not just in the real estate industry, it's a lot of industries, but we now have a lot of people that, don't want to come in, at 9 o'clock, and they don't want to necessarily be told what to do throughout different hours of the days with phone calls and chasing. So what is the best plan? What is the best route? Because there's all different agencies that will offer the work from home option, the not work from home option, the work 1 hour, turn up when you want.
Yeah, no, it's difficult, isn't it? I think it's certainly an off plan. We've got some people who are the more senior brokers that maybe don't need as much hand holding. They've been doing the job for a while, given the opportunity to, as a sort of hot desk game, work from home, whatever you want to call it. And they probably come in typically 2 days a week, a minimum, to come for sales meetings, to come and, we've got certain times where we get the whole team in to really, maintain that culture, maintain that work environment. But at the same time, give them the flexibility that, they're effectively can have as much holiday as they want, and they can take the 3 days a week and work from where they want. So we feel that that's a really nice balance, really. And hopefully it suits for most people. Of course, we can't, necessarily all things to all people, but I think that certainly is a really fair hybrid between the two models.
I think we've always maintained that if someone's doing the monetary numbers and the targets that we set, whichever the department, that kind of satisfies us and tells us that they're actually doing a lot of the things right. What I think the recent conversations we've had on it, and it is a very on-trend topic for us, is that anyone new to the business does need to soak up the business. They need to see what the culture's like. They need to be in here first thing in the morning. And I think it sets a very good precedence for them getting into the actual role. So, whether that's the first 6 to 12 months, they need to be around people that understand the business, that if they have any questions, they can go to them, get a very quick response on it. And again, going back to those direct line managers and what have you, but ultimately, really understand who we are as a business, what our expectations are with clients, and what the culture is like.
Yeah.
And then, as Simon said before, it's if someone is actually doing the job well and like a seasoned kind of campaigner, then they probably get a little bit more rope in terms of us. And it's interesting, actually, some of our better brokers who probably have the scope to work from home or work from a developer's office, they actually want to be in the office.
Why is that?
I think it depends on your character, doesn't it? I think it depends on your character.
I've noticed that. I've noticed some of the best brokers. I was speaking to someone the other day. He said, I want to be here in the morning and I want to be last one here. Is that because he wants to lead by example? Or is it because he doesn't want to be at home with his family or his wife or whoever? I don't know. It's strange where you get people that I want to work from home because I want it to be quiet and I want to be able to focus and I don't want the noise. And then you've got others that say, I need to be here, I need to feel the energy. Mm-hmm. And then when you actually look at the different conversations that people are having and then their numbers over the year, I would say and suggest that the ones that are here are actually hitting better numbers than the ones that aren't.
Yeah.
No, definitely, 100%. I think the grass is always greener with all these things, isn't it? And the idea, if you've never had the opportunities to work from home, you probably think that sounds quite a desirable option, don't you? Until you do, and then you probably realise that actually it's not that exciting, and the fact that it's probably a bit boring. And if you're young, which obviously, quite a young, it's a young, fast-moving, dynamic market, isn't it? And obviously a lot of the brokers are similarly young, and And I think they need an environment which is, fast-paced and competitive and pushes you to succeed, rather than the nice idea that, in your late 40s or 50s, you can be sat at home and have an easy job. I mean, this isn't a salary job, is it? Let's be honest. So I think ultimately people need to be pushed a bit.
If we've had a very record-breaking year, we discussed it on numerous podcasts, and we see it in all the editorials. If you've not had a record-breaking year yourself, James, what is the problem? Do you get out the real estate industry because you're thinking, well, if I can't do it in this year, what shall I do something else, or do I have to re-examine and look at myself, or do I change company? We've just been talking about this. What are the scenarios out there? Because there will be people listening that probably haven't had a great year, yet they see all these headlines and they see all their colleagues, and everyone's high-fiving or drinking champagne, and but what should they be doing?
I think it's quite easy to look outside the door, rather than looking inside yourself if you're having problems. And obviously that goes down to work, personal situations, I guess everything in life. But, for sure we have people in here that have maybe been doing the role for a certain amount of time. And it is a tough job. It is, like anything in life, it does get monotonous. Even if you're making the money, there are definitely times when, people would prefer to be on the beach if they've had a good couple of months and what have you. But I guess it's just about, tapping into why you're here and thinking about the real reasons why you actually came to Dubai. I was in a pool yesterday in downtown, and I've been here 10 years living in downtown, and I still get excited by it. It's still, for me, is one of the, the best places in the world to be. And I think if you have that about you, where you come into work with that bounce, or you come back off a flight from another country and you realize that actually you're super lucky to work and operate in this and live in this market, then I think that's half the battle. I think that is half the battle, just in terms of like I say, just, addressing why you actually come to work in the morning and what your goals are.
Yeah. So you think people will be realigning their New Year's resolutions and thinking, right, well, I'm not going to do it for the next 20 odd days in December. Let's start them on the 1st or the 2nd.
Possibly, but again, it's that age-old thing of, you could have bought a house 20 years ago, and why didn't you if you had the opportunity,
Yeah.
Of course, there's no better time to start than now, but why wait until the new year? There's things that you can do now to build for the new year, and there's definitely business to be had in this market before 2024.
Yeah. Simon, 25,000 square feet approximately, maybe a bit more.
Office space, yes, we've got 20 about that, yes. So it's very exciting, and obviously over the last year, and I think with various things, like we've recently bolstered our recruitment team and our training team, which obviously James does a lot of work with, which is really exciting. So on that point of helping our brokers be the best they can be, I think that's something we really care about. And certainly as we've grown, we've been able to put better and more people in place, shall we say, and that training team is now formidable, I would say, and very well respected, certainly within the company and outside as well. And I think they can help people an awful lot. So then it like we were talking about, James hit the nail on the head, a lot of it's about attitude and about having the brokers having a goal for themselves and then coming to work with the right attitude. I think we in this market, the reality is that I think there was a stat that it was something like 10,000 deals a month and 15,000 brokers. So you don't have to be a rocket scientist to work out that brokers are doing a deal every 2 months on average, which is quite worrying, right? So there's, and you do need to have a very, very positive attitude every day when you come to work and think this is my day, rather than thinking, doom and gloom and I might lose it. So I think certainly those trainers, the recruitment team is something that's very exciting. And then we've now got a dedicated trainer for each major department, haven't we, James? So that's ready to take on 2024, which is exciting.
Are there any particular highlights for you, James, 2023, when we look at Haus and Haus? Anything that makes you particularly proud? I know everything probably does, but is there any things that you think are like key special moments throughout the year that have probably given you that extra bit of
I think the continued growth, for me, that shows that we're heading in the right direction. We're not looking to take on 50 brokers a month, but we made it a clear objective at the start of the year that we actually wanted to fill our office space, and I think, you know, most people would say that it's getting relatively tight now. We've had a couple of big promotions. Probably the biggest would be Charlie Banan has been promoted to a managing director.
Banan.
Banan, yeah.
Banana.
So yeah, I mean, that is probably as high as you can get in the real estate side of the business. And, you know, for someone to have done that, who started off in leasing and gone through pretty much, you know, every step that you can do in terms of hierarchy, it shows that there are the positions available, and it shows that we do have the right structures. And, you know, if we believe in our people and the people are doing good things, that actually there is that growth there for the right people.
Yeah, and I think, you know, going back to that culture, and, you know, what we're doing, kind of leading by example, it's that kind of religion that, you know, whether you've got Charlie Bannon, Thomas, Tom Paulson in the sales director role, Jake Walton, you've got 4 new sales managers, Ben, Chris, Jamie and Millie. You would like to think that if you weren't in the room, they could all make decisions that would be pretty similar, which you would have carried out. And that's what the whole thing is about, right? So we lead by example. We try to do the best thing. Sometimes it isn't always going to get a smile and a cheer, because some people get upset by it, but we always have to look at it from a 360 degree view. Simon, James mentioned growth. Mm-hmm. What are the intentions, the plan? If you get to, James was excited about growth, but how long is the piece of string, and how much real estate can you...
Had different plans, and it's probably the journey's probably changed, but the goals always be the same. I mean, we certainly had rather than just a purely, you know, financial goal, we had a goal for a sort of percentage of market share, and one quite easy way of looking at that is with the, you know, Property Finder. We always get the percentage in terms of, you know, share of leads on Property Finder, which is quite a good indication actually of the fair market share. We've just hit 2.4%, which sounds very small, but I think the very biggest are only just over 3%. So yeah, we're certainly, you know, in the top. I think we're number 3 or 4, you know, of all the 2,000 plus companies in Dubai. So we're certainly very, very much at the pointy end, which is exciting. And obviously we haven't got there yet, and we're probably halfway to our.
We would be considerably less on number of brokers out those 3 or 4 as well, right?
Yeah, of course, yeah, considerably less. So that's obviously part of the number. We wouldn't want anyone listening to just think, oh, we only care about, you know, numbers of heads, because that's certainly not what it is. But certainly, you know, with a view to trying to grow out more sales teams, more off-plan teams, and as part of that, obviously promote a lot of people to be able to be, you know, the next sort of sales manager star on the way to potentially being, you know, a sales or a leasing director, or maybe a future managing director. So there's lots of growth opportunity there as well. Opportunity
is probably where it lies, James. That's where you and I or Simon once sat thinking, we're in a company, what is the next step? When am I going to get that? Do I have to stay? Do I have to go? Do I have to shout? Do I have to scream? Or do I just show my actions and hopefully it comes my way? The opportunities here, and we were talking about, I think it was Ben Greenwood earlier in 2023, going on to Chris, Morn, Jamie Hemingway, and then Millie. What have they done particularly well to get those positions? And are there more of those around? These sales managers?
Yeah, definitely. Look, I think a mixture of what you were saying. So some people actually came to us and we gave them like clear expectations and targets over a certain period to hit. Some of them we promoted just by, you know, pretty much, we've talked about it a lot over the recent podcast, but just by abiding by our values and doing the right things every day. So yeah, I think a mixture of things, both you know, hitting monetary targets, hitting our value KPIs, and you know, some people probably shouted a little bit louder, some people less so. Some people we had to probably give a nudge. But in terms of other positions available, 100% there are a lot more positions available. We're still trying to build out, you know, the off-plan team, the secondary market sales team, our holidays department. I read a stat earlier that our holiday department grew 57% this year, which was the largest growth of any department. So, you know, within that particular department, there's been many promotions this year as well in terms of like line managers and various things. So yeah, across the board, what we're seeing as all these different departments grow is that ultimately you need a level of hierarchy to be able to support that particular structure. And as we said before, just as a general rule of thumb, the bigger these departments get, the more people are going into these senior positions.
Yeah, it's a good stat on the holiday count. PM as well, Louisa Bridge came in. Yeah. She's done a phenomenal job. She's got some really good people within the team. Yuende, Noella.
Definitely one of our strongest departments in terms of percentage over target. Simon will be able to tell you a little bit more because he's been quite involved in it, but we're taking on another office space with a view to growing out particular departments, and PM is definitely one of those that we have big aspirations for 2024.
Yeah, definitely. Property management is something that I think is a backbone of any real estate company, and I think that certainly in Dubai it's probably almost the forgotten relative sometimes, but I think for us, we're looking at growing that department by 100% the next year, which would be really exciting to try and chase down that number. Obviously, in terms of off-plan, those off-plan's also grown quite significantly this year. In terms of revenue, we've grown almost 100%, so we've grown a huge amount in terms of revenue, which is above our original targets. So that's very exciting, and we'll continue to grow next year as well, hopefully. That office gives some of the departments that like property management, like holidays. Gives them the opportunity for some more growth that maybe they haven't necessarily been benefit of in the last year or two.
James touched on the office, Simon. You're going to touch on the market for me. What were our best months this year? And was there anything specifically that you would say contributed towards those months being so good?
I think, for any company, the reality is that obviously you can, as soon as there are some big deals, for example, in off-plan, there's been some quite significant sales happening this year. There's been launches like Palm Jebel Ali, for example, where the property started at 20 million dirhams. Obviously, if you're a broker in the market, if you're getting a deal or two in there, it's some quite significant commissions. There's been some super luxury penthouse developments get launched as well that we've been lucky enough to close business in. So of course, when those sales happen, they contribute to a very, very strong month. As historically has always been the case, sort of the first 6 months of the year, I think we did something like 66% of our business in the first 6 months of the year, so which is quite a significant number. Yes. So we've had our best months in, I think it was March, and then we had our best month ever, and then we had our best month ever again in May, which again is not something that we normally shout about significantly. It just shows that we're going in the right direction. And if you compare this year to last year, we've done almost exactly 50% growth, which is obviously above that 40% I mentioned earlier. So, which is again is very, very exciting, and it shows that even though if you ask a lot of brokers in the market, this year wasn't necessarily any better than it was last year for individuals, because of course the number of estate agents in the market has increased so much, as we said earlier.
How many real estate companies had shot up, I think, by 100% or something in the last year?
In terms of brokerage, there's been a few. There's been a few that have grown very, very rapidly, and obviously, which is great for them, and I'm sure they're doing well. I think for us, we have always wanted to do it slightly more steadily. We want to grow, but we want to do it in the right way. We want to put those building blocks in place so that we're not a flash in the pan and disappearing the next year, which obviously we have seen in the past. So that's something that's quite important to us, to make sure that the building blocks are in place. All the support we touched earlier on, the recruitment teams, the training teams, the marketing teams. It's very important that all those building blocks are in place to support the future growth, rather than just make it something that's a 1 year blip and then disappear again. So we're very much here for the next decade. Obviously, we've just hit our 10-year anniversary, haven't we? Which was fun.
Yeah. Rebranded. Yeah. Which was an exciting point. Kudos to the management team. New website. Obviously, it's a big milestone for us, 10 years. It's a long time.
And there's a lot of investment that goes back into those 10 years as well, James. It's not just kind of always pulling money out, or, it's a lot of it goes back in, and there's a lot of thought and dedication that goes so analytical that we can be on every decision, going forward. And we've got some really key people within the management team now. Whichever decision we're making, there's a few different answers and a few different points, and we take them all into consideration.
I did an interview the other day with a guy, and I think he might be joining us, so I hope he's not listening to this. But anyway, I'm not going to name names. But he was saying to me, the risk is on me. The risk is on me joining you. And I basically said to him, I disagree with that. His view was, I'm in a commission-only role. There's not money cost to you. Basically, if I'm a good broker, you make loads of money in as a business, and if I'm not, I'm out the door. And I said, that's so untrue. You own a business in the UK, and if I said that to you in terms of your running costs day to day, and your employees have risk coming to work every day, you'd completely disagree. I think people would be astounded by the money that we spend on various things, whether it's office space, marketing. We're increasing marketing all the time. I actually don't go into the portal meetings anymore because it freaks me out how much money we actually spend on it. Simon likes taking control of that one. But it is astounding, and I think
we have to spend a lot, don't we, to make 100%. The wheels go round. And unfortunately, that's why there are so many. If you look at the numbers of brokerages, and we mentioned there's over 2,000 companies, 99% of them are very, very small, and they've never probably have they. Because of course, if you always did that sort of, let's not spend too much, you'd never get to the scale that we've managed to achieve. So it's makes the cogs go round, certainly, doesn't it? But yeah, there is a huge, as James said, there's a huge amount of money spent. New website, $1 million dirhams just spent on some radio advertising, for example, as one small thing, but it all adds up, doesn't it? So.
You're talking about $1 million dirhams, Simon. So that obviously gives you a lot of hope that 2024 is going to continue like 2023.
Certainly, I think we've just set ourselves up. We've, for the next 12 months, haven't we? We've put in the radio advertising. We've increased portal spend by 60 to 70%, depending on which portal you go for. We're very much a believer that we've hit a stage in the market. Certainly, if you look at prices, it's 10 years ago, or just over 10 years ago, we started in 2013. Prices hit a peak in 2014, so literally 12 months after we'd started. And I think we probably had still at 8 or 10 of us in a very small office. And interestingly, just recently, in the last couple of months, have we hit that that same price point as 2014. So obviously from 415 to 20, the prices declined slowly, didn't they? Sort of negative sentiment, whatever else. We've come out of COVID, and prices have shot up. Dubai's been very, very positive and obviously handled COVID very well. Lots of initiatives by the government to bring new businesses here, make it easy to get visas. Dubai, the safest place in the world, and a re-envision, if you like, of the best city in the world by 2040 with this I think it was originally 5.8 million people. The revised target's over 7 million people, and on the way to that, obviously, real estate is going to be a huge part of that. So,
we've talked about the market. Is there any pivotal moments, announcements from the government that you think have really kind of pushed the accelerator, as in terms of growth and people coming to Dubai? That I know we've got a lot of headwinds in other places around the world.
I think Expo was the original one, wasn't it? Do you remember when it was announced in 13 and the whole market went mental for a year? And then people used to say, well, I'd put the price up for Expo. And you'd say, well, what's Expo? And they said, well, I don't know, but it's made the price go up. And then we spent 6 years of people wondering if it had ever happened. And I think Expo was interesting because a lot of people came here, and I met people who'd come for Expo and they've said, I didn't think Expo was that great, but I actually really like Dubai, and I would have never come if it hadn't been for Expo. More recently, and similar to that, you've had obviously COP28, which is the global climate change conference, where you've brought people from all over the world, world leaders and thinkers and all the rest of it, who have come here and who may not have been to UAE or been to Dubai before. So I think all these events that Dubai has, it very cleverly brings a spotlight to the city, and brings influential people here that may well come back, and once they've seen what a fantastic, forward-thinking, buzzy place this is. So I think that's all these various huge events going on. When you're living here, it's probably quite easy just to think, there's another thing going on. But actually, I think in Dubai's growth, those are probably quite pivotal moments, really.
James, you touched on it. You still get that kind of feeling in your body and that surreal moment when you go to the pool, and you've been doing it for year and year and week and week. What is the number one thing that you think keeps drawing people out to Dubai?
It's hard to just say one thing, isn't it?
What would you say is the most important thing?
it's just an exciting place. It's an exciting place, isn't it? Sometimes it probably sounds silly this, but sometimes when I speak to my friends at home, even though I'm very close to them, I have to be a little bit careful about what I say, because Dubai is an exciting place, and almost every weekend you can be doing something exciting, no matter what that is. You can be jumping out of a plane, you can be going to a world class. I was in one of the Address hotels yesterday. I was saying it's an unbelievable hotel. Imagine if you came here on holiday to this luxury, and comparing it to similar priced hotels in Italy, it's incomparable. So I think just that, it's a place of wonder, isn't it? When my family come over, my dad always says to me, you can get everything here. Like, everywhere you turn, it's kind of like a Tokyo. There's bright lights, there's buzz. You can go out pretty much till whenever you want. There's a food place open till whenever you want. It's just a non-stop city, isn't it? And if you like that kind of thing, okay, it's not for everyone. Some people would say Dubai is too busy. I don't like the congestion. There's not enough mountains or green spaces or any mountains at all. But not too far away, you can get to Hatta and places like that. But I think if you like the metropolis, and you like the buzz, and you like entertainment and some of the best F&B places in the world, it's incomparable in my opinion.
Due to that reason, Simon, there's a lot of people that are expected to come here not only in 2024, but for the next kind of 16 years with the vision for the 2040 vision. You haven't got a crystal ball, but if you had one and you could gaze into it, what's the market going to do next year?
I mean, listen, I think obviously real estate is always very much driven by supply and demand, and there's been a huge demand for property here. Lots of people moving here from all over the world. Dubai, as James touched on, has become a very attractive option. I mean, in large part, if you're coming from Europe for safety and security, which are the more boring reasons, it's not the excitement, the buzz and the excitement, but it's safety, it's security. They're bringing their families here because they possibly don't feel safe in their home city, which is sad, but is the reality of 21st century, is that lots of big cities are dangerous places, and people are coming here not for what I would have thought 20 years ago when I came here, for it was tax and sunshine and trying to get away from the rain, but actually mainly for safety, security, opportunity, and obviously for us, we're unlocking opportunities, is what we like to say for brokers. And I think Dubai as a city has unlocked some serious opportunities for us and for so many people that can come. James has mentioned to me a few times before, he loves the fact that Dubai is the kind of place that you can come. It doesn't really matter if you've got a certain degree or where you went to school or who mummy and daddy were, but you've got an opportunity here that you can come, and that's almost as a fresh slate. And if you're prepared to work hard, and you get the feeling that anything's possible, which I think is very exciting. Really. Yeah,
no, for health, certainly with the family. If you've got the family, I think safety is number one, right? That's so important.
I think it is, and Simon just absolutely nailed it there on that point. But when I came to Dubai, and it was the reason why I came to Dubai, it was for the tax, the zero tax element, and to actually, I suppose, gear yourself up in life, whether that was to pay off a mortgage or what have you. There's so many people I can remember over the years that have come and gone from Dubai with a viewpoint of maybe paying off a mortgage or getting enough money to put a deposit down the house in the UK or wherever.
Which is funny, isn't it? People used to come, didn't they, for I'm going to come for 3 years, I'm going to save this much money, as if that was the only thing in life that was important. And they've probably then gone home and realised that, oh great, I've paid off my one mortgage. It's like, well, what about the rest of my life?
And actually, it's funny, it's funny that that's kind of almost a secondary conversation now.
It is, yeah. Well, I think that's completely right. I think the idea has changed, isn't it? It was gone, my dad worked in Saudi in the 60s, and the idea was you get a 2-year contract, and he went there, made a lot of money and bought a house in London. It was, okay, great, well done, you've done, that's fine. But nowadays in Dubai, it's not about that. People are coming here for lifestyle. In a lot of cases, probably earning less than they might have done, comparatively, because they've got to pay for school fees and all these things. They may well be earning less than they would at home, but safety, security, healthcare, schooling, quality of life, should we say, for kids, that they can spend a lot more time outdoors because of the weather and these kind of things as well. So all these things have probably contributed to them thinking, actually, we're not going for money anymore. This is not the oil days in Saudi, even the 60s. This is because they're coming for lifestyle. And which is interesting. There's certainly a demographic shift. I think people would have, if you lost your job in Dubai 10 years ago, you would have almost immediately left and said, right, okay, let's go home.
Yeah.
Whereas if you lost your job today, you may well think, well, actually, this is my home now, and I've bought a house here and all the rest of it. So actually, you'd have a slightly different viewpoint on it, I think.
James, let's wrap up with this. Anyone listening had enough? They're talking about the kind of the Dubai dream. What are the recruitment goals? What are your plans for 2024?
Just literally pushing out all the service lines. So as we said earlier, we've got a new office on the way. We've got a lot more space to push into. Just that continued growth really that we've always kind of pushed for in the past couple of years. And fortunately, we've continued to do the right things to maintain that.
Superb. Thank you. Thank you to our listeners for joining us in the final episode of 2023. It's been a great one. Thank you, James and Simon. We'll be dropping new episodes in the new year. Don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss them. Merry Christmas and advanced Happy New Year.